Hey, it's Mike Santiago. Welcome to our series of videos titled Learn Leadership Behaviors. I love pouring into leaders, making sure that they are equipped with things that I've learned over the past 10 years in full-time ministry. And today's learned leadership behavior is all about recruiting. I know that recruiting is something that not only happens in the church with volunteers, but also in the marketplace, recruiting new employees, recruiting new sales team members, recruiting new volunteers in church. Recruiting is something that we do often, and I want to give you some practical tips very quickly on how we can better our recruitment, especially as summer comes for us in the church. A lot of our volunteers go on vacation, and we're trying our best to get in new volunteers before the fall comes because we want to make sure that we're ready to receive all of our guests in the fall. And so here are some quick tips on how to recruit volunteers. Number one is you need to spiritualize the role significantly. For us in the church, we want you to spiritualize the role significantly. We want you to take what they're going to be doing and make sure that they connect the dots in their mind and in their heart, that they're not doing this for you or for the pastor or even for the church, but they're doing this for the Lord. So when you connect the role and you make it significant spiritually, it adds weight and value to everything. We just talked about how work is worship. You need to learn to, when you recruit a volunteer, to make sure you make the role significantly spiritual. You're not just running a camera. You're enabling the gospel message to go to the ends of the earth because of the internet. When this video goes live on the camera that you're currently operating, now you have enabled the message of Jesus Christ to go all around the world. You see what I did there? You're not just there to run camera, but you are there to get the gospel message all around the world. So the first thing is this, is you have to spiritualize the role significantly. The second one is this, you need to identify the need specifically. People love to know exactly what they're going to have to do, when exactly they're going to have to do it, and for how long they're going to have to do it for. So you need to make sure that you outline the details of what it means to serve in your department or to be on your team. You can't just say, hey, come join the production team. Well, what does that mean? Well, production covers lights, audio, sound, camera. It covers a lot of areas, and that might be overwhelming if you just blanket it with production, or if you just say kids ministry. Those are blanket statements, broad strokes, and that can sometimes be really hard to identify myself in. But if you said, hey, you look like somebody that would love to run camera. You pay attention, you sit close, you pay attention to the details, you never lose sight of the pastor when he's talking, I think you would make a great camera person. That is a more specific role, and then within that, you also need to lay out all the details. You're gonna put the tripod at this height. You're gonna make sure that the lighting is at this way. You're gonna make sure that the diapers go here for the kids ministry. You're gonna make sure the goldfish crackers go in these cups. You need to identify the role specifically, identify the needs specifically. So spiritualize the role significantly, identify the needs specifically, and then calculate the commitment precisely. How long do you need this person to serve for? Is this a lifelong commitment? Do you need my social security number and my DNA and a blood test in order for me to be able to serve? And for how long is this a blood covenant? Maybe so, maybe not. Maybe you give them 6 months. Maybe you give them 90-day trial. Maybe you just ask them to shadow you for 1 week to see if it works out. Either way, when you're recruiting a volunteer, you need to calculate the commitment precisely. How long am I going to have to be on this camera? Do I get to go to service, or do I have to be in kids' classroom for both services? When you recruit, you need to do these things. You need to spiritualize the role significantly, identify the need in specificity, calculate the commitment precisely. The next one is this, you need to document the process meticulously. Documentation is what will stay after you leave. So if you decide to move on to another role or move on to another church, or God moves you on somewhere else, your documentation is the only thing that you'll leave behind. Your legacy is found in how meticulously you document your process. So open up Evernote, open up a Google Doc, and begin to document everything you do. I usually arrive at church at this time. When I arrive, I'm looking for these things. Is this out of place? Is this missing? I grab this cart from this trailer. I grab this bin from that cart. I put those things in that thing. You have to document everything meticulously so that when you recruit the volunteers, it doesn't look like you're remembering things off the top of your head. Oh, and you do this and you do that. But instead, there's a checklist. Instead, there's a document. Instead, there's a binder. We have an incredible setup and teardown team, and they have been resourced by an incredible binder that was put together by one of our leaders who has since moved on from that role. But because she documented that process meticulously, that team survived. The next thing is this: you need to approach the opportunity relationally. This is not something that you go in like an Army recruiter saying, are you man enough for the job in the Army? Can you do this? Are you even able to handle this? I don't even think you'd be cut out for the Marines. That is not how you recruit people in ministry. That might work for the Marines, but it doesn't work for ministry. You recruit people relationally. Hey, I'd love to talk to you for a few minutes after service. Hey, can we grab lunch sometime next week? Hey, I added you on Facebook. Thanks so much for being my friend. I noticed that you were the fan of this football team. I love that football team. You need to approach recruiting relationally. This is not just a job to be done, but a community to be involved in. And if you look at it that way, instead of making announcements, we need help in the nursery, we need help on production, you'll say, I identified an individual, I became friends with that person, and now it's so much easier for me to say, hey, could you help me on my team on Sunday morning? So you're gonna approach the opportunity relationally. And then the next thing is this: you need to provide insider environments immediately. They need to feel like they're a part of something that they weren't a part of before. So whether that's a production team hangout or a kids ministry team meeting or a game night with all of the small group leaders, whatever it is, you need to give them access to insider environments. If they are now a part of an email list that only they get for being on that team, you need to add them to it quickly. You need to welcome them to the team. They need to feel like they're a part of something that didn't exist before. That now they have gained access. They've gained a backstage pass into the ministry because of they've signed up to serve. And so let me cover this last one. This last one is over communicate expectations regularly. Expectations are in a bucket that has a million tiny holes in the bottom. And so if you say, hey, show up at 9, they'll show up at 8:55 the first week. They'll show up at 8:57 the second. They're gonna show up at 8:59 the third. They'll show up at 9 the fourth. And then after the 5th week, they're gonna show up at 9:05, 9:10. Once they get better at doing the job, 9:15. Once they get really good at doing the job, 9:30. And you'll have to over communicate expectations regularly. So when you recruit a volunteer, not only do you give them the expectations out front by the documentation that you've done, by the recruiting that you've done, but you have to continually overemphasize those expectations. So let me just run through these really quickly one more time. Spiritualize the role significantly, identify the need specifically, calculate the commitment precisely, document the process meticulously, approach the opportunity relationally, provide insider environments immediately, and over communicate expectations regularly. Man, I am so excited to see what God does now that you have learned this about recruiting. I know for me, I look at recruiting a whole new way. Once I've discovered these truths, this has helped me recruit more leaders and more volunteers at our church than ever before. And I hope that this helps you. If you're still watching this, I just want to thank you for taking the time to expand your capacity, to lift the lid off your leadership. And I want to thank you so much for watching today's Learned Leadership Behavior. I can't wait to talk to you soon. God bless.